Nice.
All right. So, well, first off, thanks for getting together with me today, Kyle.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Roger.
Absolutely. We tried before, couldn't quite make it, but that's okay.
Yeah.
We got back this. Hey, I'll tell you what, it gave me a chance to actually get a little bit of a rant going on leadership. So it was cool. It was the first time I sat down and actually did a solo podcast.
Nice. There you go. Yeah.
We'll take advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how's everything been going for you? You've been a busy guy. You've got your own company that you've just blossomed out of nowhere, especially with COVID and everything. So let's jump straight into it, because I know people want to talk about that. They want to hear about that. They want to hear more about weed and what's coming down the line with weed.
Absolutely. Right. So yeah, we started KC Hemp Company back in 2018. My wife and I started it. We're a two-man team, family business, and we started out actually as a brick and mortar location. We were in downtown Overland Park, and then when COVID hit and everything shut down, we decided to take the opportunity to move our business online and cut the overhead of a brick and mortar. And so now we work more on, we manufacture our own products too. So that was kind of part of the evolution since we've started in 2018. And
that brick and mortar, that was that old donut shop?
It was, yeah. It was in the old John Space Age Donuts location. And it was that building had a lot of weird energy to it because
Villa Capri, right?
Villa Capri was next door, and there's actually a fun story with that. So for those that don't know, it had ties to the mafia, and in the basement it was pretty eerie down there. But apparently they used to have illegal poker games in the basement of
Villa Capri.
So that building was running like 24/7 because they'd shut their poker games down about 3 a.m. and that's about the time John would be rolling in to start making his donuts for the day. So but yeah, I'll tell you, there was one time in particular when we were building out the building, and I was down in the basement. No one else was in the building. It was late at night, probably 9, 10 o'clock at night. And I swear to you, I heard change drop. I heard coins dropping. And I was like, this is weird.
One of those old poker games coming back to haunt them.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a great location. We miss it. It was definitely fun while we had it. But we've just kind of evolved with the times.
Absolutely.
With everyone kind of had to do with COVID, and so now we manufacture all of our own products, and it was just more or less getting our products on other people's shelves and selling online.
All right, and your products. Tell us more about your products. What it is that you actually produce, what you put out, what you vend.
Yeah. So we sell CBD hemp-based products. So we have tinctures, lotions, gummies, and then we also do a line of different minor cannabinoids. So if you're familiar with minor cannabinoids. So the cannabis plant actually has, CBD is considered a cannabinoid, and there's over 120 different cannabinoids that we currently know about. And so CBD is just the most popular. So you think about CBD, you think about THC. Those are your two most popular cannabinoids that most people know. But then you have CBN, CBG, CBC, THCV, THCVA. There's acidic forms. And so there's just a lot of different cannabinoids, and they all do different things. They all have different effects and properties to them. And so it's really exciting. The future of cannabis isn't all going to be about the CBD and the THC. It's going to be about what minor cannabinoids, and doing the research and getting more studies done is very important on all of these. And it's going to be able to change the way that we look at cannabis as a medicine.
And it's amazing how there are so many different strains that all of a sudden have come out that we didn't know about. I mean, I can think, back to college, you go even back before then to our parents, and they're used to seeing just the old school little dime bag brown pieces that they used to roll up and smoke. And nowadays it's a science. I mean, it is literally a science to where, to your point, would you say 120?
It is, yeah, over 120, and I mean, there's still more to be discovered, honestly, just through research. But
and the different strains that they've created on the medicinal side. I mean, and that's the most important aspect of all this, is the medicinal side of things.
It is, and there's a lot of different theories on that too. Because like you're saying, back in the 70s or 80s when our parents were growing up and they're getting their dime bags, the THC content in most of those was 10% or less. Yeah. And today you've got strains up over 30%. It's insane. Some of the products on the market over 100%.
Is that the wax?
The waxes
that they sell
and stuff like that. And there's not a lot of research showing that more THC is always better too. It's more or less getting a comprehensive, more than just THC, but the other cannabinoids as well, because the more that you have together, it's like an army, right? If you got one big strong guy, that's nice. But what if you've got 100 smaller guys behind him? It's so it's less. It's kind of 1 + 1 = 3 sort of thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, Kyle Steppe, again, one more time, Kyle Steppe with KC Hemp Co. Subscribe to That Bald Guy, follow us. So in terms of the CBD properties, though, obviously, for those that are tuning in that may not know, let's break down the difference between your CBD and your THC. I mean, because THC, obviously, that's more of your hallucinogenic properties as opposed to the CBD, and that's what people see in their corner stores nowadays, And it's like, oh, it's CBD, yay, but it's different.
Yeah, and I wouldn't go as far to say hallucinogenic, but definitely psychoactive.
But that's how I've seen a class. Okay, there you go.
Psychoactive, and and it gets a pretty bad rap sometimes, and especially in the edible form. It's people don't know how much they're taking or what they're taking, and so that can definitely pose some issues. But the real difference between CBD and THC, the most common cannabinoids found, is that CBD is non-psychoactive and THC is psychoactive. So, and in fact, if you have too much THC, you can actually use CBD to counterbalance some of that, extra high effects that you're getting. So it'll kind of help level you out a little bit. So they actually work really well together within our body to kind of balance. So yeah, just to note, if you take too much THC, just have a little CBD on hand. It'll help you come back.
All of our listeners in Denver and San Diego and other states, not Kansas.
Kansas, yeah. So.
But that's something we'll talk a little bit more about that here coming up too. But so tell me a little bit more about your company, KC Hemp Co. You were over there at the old Johnny Rocky Donuts. You moved on from there, and now you're online. And you've got a ton of different products that you've been selling, but how did you get into it? What started you?
Getting into it, for me, it was a story like most. I actually was a pretty good kid through high school and even when I started college, and I was on the DARE program, no drugs, bad for you. It'll turn
Nancy Reagan at her best.
Nancy had me when I was a kid, man. She was. I thought my egg, that my brain was going to turn into a fried egg if I tried something. And then, one night in college, I tried it and I have been hooked ever since. It was, just something that expanded my mind and opened me up. And I think when I really started getting into it, it wasn't necessarily for the partying aspects, this, that, and the other. It was, I actually had a lot of stomach issues and anxiety problems. Yep. And I actually noticed that when I smoked, my stomach issues and my digestive issues were going away. And so, you're in college, you're eating like crap, you go eat, Chinese food at 2 a.m. and you start to feel pretty bad. And then for me,
pizza
it was like,
from under the couch from 2 days ago.
Yeah, so, and I started self-medicating from that. And I never quite felt, I shouldn't say, you feel like what I'm trying to say, a criminal, right? I mean, you're made to feel like a criminal for doing it, but it just never sat right with me. I never quite got that. And so I've always been passionate about it and been in the business one way or another for a long time and decided that we were going to start paying taxes on some of that. And so we created KC Hemp Company, and it was kind of a paradigm shift too, because I started taking just regular CBD products and noticed that they, helped me quite a bit with my anxiety issues and without needing that extra high that you couldn't always, regulate with cannabis use. And so the CBD was great. We saw that there was a big need for it in the area. There wasn't a lot of products out at the time. This was back in, 2017, 2018. And
this is just a couple of years before the pandemic hit. This is...
Yeah. Just a couple of years before the pandemic, and 2018 is when the Farm Bill was signed, which is what made industrial hemp legal across the United States, and that's when the big boom really happened. And so we got into the industry about 9 months before that happened, and so we've seen the wave and kind of ridden it, and it's been a roller coaster ride for sure. We've dealt with a lot of different things. Our first week in business, when we started in 2018, our bank shut us down, liquidated all my assets. So that was business, personal, didn't matter, froze everything. And so that was week one in the cannabis industry. Wow. It was like, welcome to the industry.
Welcome, here you go.
So we managed to get thick skin very quickly
Yeah.
to continue going in this industry.
So, all right. So you keep going, you keep pushing through. You end up, but what is it that just kind of sparked it? I mean, did you study in college for this? Did you just out of nowhere decide, you know what? Yeah, like I said, you got into it. You were excited about it. It helped you. You wanted to help others with it. Did you study for this, or was it we're just going to create a business and run with it?
It wasn't. So I started out when I left college. I spent 6 years in corporate America, and then I quit and decided to become an entrepreneur. And it was actually a crazy story how that all unfolded. I actually, my buddy called me. It was the night before when the Royals were in the World Series back in 2015, 2016. And he called me up and said, hey, I got an extra ticket to the World Series game. It was a Friday game. He goes, I just need you to meet me at 4:00 so that we can go. And so I went to my boss and was like, hey, boss, I got to leave, an hour and a half early so that I can go to the game. And she's like, no, I'm not going to let you. And I was like, at this point, I had just just divorced my first wife, and I was like in this state where I was like, I'm done with people telling me what to do.
F the world.
F the world. I said, I slapped my resignation letter on her desk that day, and I walked away, and that was a little over 7 years ago now. And
wow.
And so I've been an entrepreneur ever since. Started out, I was flipping houses. I did some real estate, loved it. It was grueling work though. I was doing most of it myself. And so I was like, all right, this was fun, but what else can I check off my entrepreneurial bucket list? And,
right.
So from there I started a couple other companies, didn't really do much with them, and was always looking for that next big thing. And I was just always been passionate about cannabis. And so it was like, why not start a cannabis company?
And they always say, 1 out of 7. You got to try. You got to try at least 7 different times.
Yeah.
And one of those out of 7 businesses that you try is going to actually stick.
Yeah.
So awesome. So now you've been doing the cannabis business for a little while, and you've gotten into the Kansas Cannabis Coalition. You become more of an activist, working here within the government, trying to work within the government to push.
Yes.
Tell us about what's going on there.
Yeah, so I'm on the board of directors for both the Kansas Cannabis Coalition and the Kansas Cannabis Chamber of Commerce. So 2 different organizations, one that represents patient rights, which I feel like in my soul I'm a healer, and that's where the coalition comes in. It's being a voice for the people. And then the chamber is, kind of lends to that business side and, helping establish a good market, a sustainable market for Kansans. And our big push there is also within small business. We want to make sure that, the people of Kansas have an opportunity to come in and, establish businesses and prosper from a new market versus having just multi-state operators come in and take over everything. So, 2 different organizations doing 2 different things. Yeah. We want to make sure that the people are heard, and the coalition does that as far as patient rights, what, makes for, good, safe access for the patients. And then on the chamber side, just for the businesses.
So tell me a little bit more about how we're getting involved with the government and how we are helping to make that push for the legalization here on the Kansas side, because we know Missouri's about to go. They're about to.
Yeah, I think it's
about to happen.
I think it's about to hit I think it's going to get the recreational be on the ballot this year, and you've got Colorado that's been doing their thing on the other side of the state for a long time, and then you've got to the south of us, Oklahoma, which is basically a legal recreational market.
Are they now?
I mean, it's a pseudo. Yeah, you can get a temporary medical license and walk into any dispensary in Oklahoma, and yeah, so Oklahoma has been. It's a wild west down there. They actually are one of the largest black market suppliers in the nation because of the way they set their program up. So, part of our job in the legislation and educating these people in Topeka, the legislators in Topeka is, we look at the Oklahoma market, you look at the Missouri market, you look at all these other markets that are already doing it in the United States, and you take what's working from the best and put them together so that you can create a good program for Kansans. So, when Missouri rolled out, they had a lot of issues, and you walked into a dispensary and you were paying over $450 for an ounce.
I heard that. It was like right outside of Lee Summit. They had opened one up back when it was first legalized over there, and it was. And I was telling that to somebody the other day, over $400 for an ounce.
For an ounce,
I was like, you got to be kidding. That's
and you
insane.
can go on the black market and get that for $200, and so it doesn't incentivize people to leave the black market, or it incentivizes a black market just in itself. And so it's educating the lawmakers who don't want to see a black market in Kansas. Well, you've got to look at these things, and you have to consider, when you put high licensing fees on these companies, you're already, that's going down to the customer, right? The customer is going to pay for that, not the business. And so, it's just educating the people. And on the flip side, you got like Oklahoma, where it was like $2,500. Anybody's got $2,500 they can throw down, and they get a license and can start growing. And so
as opposed to having a capped amount of licenses. That
there was no cap, and anybody that could show up with $2,500 can get a license.
Seriously.
So, yeah, which it posed to be a big issue because.
Well, I can only imagine. I mean, how many people are out there with licenses running around?
Yeah, and how many people have $2,500 to say, hey, I can grow some weed. So
right.
Yeah, and because of that, you also got bad product too.
Yeah.
You got moldy product. You got issues with grow operations and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
it's a Wild West.
Yeah, so you got to find a good happy medium.
And so if you were to take some, because I know I used to sit on the board, or not on the board, I take that back. I used to sit as a part of the membership committee for the Downtown Denver Partnership back, what was that, 2000? Oh shoot, it was right before the legalization of marijuana. It was because I was sitting on the membership committee while they were all talking about, and while we were going through the regulations, what it would look like for it to roll out in Colorado and in Denver especially. And so it was a real big piece. In your mind, what are the pieces that we could take? What are those biggest pieces that we as a Kansas government and legislature should take in order to set up the right regulations? Should we allow, like, for example, this building that we're in right now, we're on the second floor in the middle. Okay. We have 6 suites. Well, the downstairs 3, they're retail up front, warehouse in the back. In Colorado, that would be prime.
Yeah.
In San Diego, it wouldn't be, because you don't grow in-house in California. You have to have it shipped and prepackaged. So what is it that we would be looking for? What is it that we as a coalition, I say we, what is it that you all as a coalition are looking for, trying to push, and what are those pieces that we think are the best ones to help in Kansas as this moves forward? So
the coalition itself is more on patient access, so getting the right amount of medical diagnosis that can get you into it. And right now, the big lobbying there is very restrictive. There's only like 16 things that qualify, and they're pretty substantial. So not a lot of patients are going to come out of that. Well, if you don't have a lot of patients for your program, then you don't have a lot of business either for the industry as well. But as far as, the licensing or building the actual industry, we believe there's a place at the table for everyone. There's space for the multi-operators, but there's also space for the small business and the boutique growers, people that could specialize in certain strain profiles that can act within different medical needs. So building certain terpene profiles within the plant, that would be good for arthritis versus something with insomnia.
Well, which could then be sold in different types of stores. You talk about small boutique. Well, okay. Well, we were talking right before the show about yoga, for example. You're a yoga guy. Yeah. So let's say you go into one of the studios and they were to offer a post-yoga type of strain, like a relaxation type of strain that was not high in THC, high in a CBD, let's say instead.
Or maybe before class, one that's high in sativa or a high sativa, right? Get you going. So.
Get you locked and loaded.
Yeah.
Right before, and just don't do goat yoga.
Yeah.
Before that might be a little
Yep. So there's and there's a lot involved in it, but we believe that everyone has a space at the table, and we just want reasonable licensing fees too, so that it's not passed on to the customer, and that it isn't over-regulated with fees and licenses on top of that, because you've got testing, you've got all these different things, and it needs to be regulated correctly. But so does the cost involved with it, because at the end of the day, you need to have a product that is affordable for your customers.
So how do we make sure that when all of this happens, because it's a big business opportunity for a lot of people. I mean, obviously we've seen it. It's happened in so many other states, and businesses have grown.
Yeah, I think last year, Missouri, it was the largest job creator in the state of Missouri.
Which is crazy. Yeah. And then you turn around and you look at like Colorado and you think about how many millions of dollars in hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes are generated yearly off of it. But how do we make sure that when it does happen here in Kansas, that small business is accommodated for, a boutique is accommodated for, but kind of like, and I kind of think of Lawrence, because, Lawrence, Kansas, and I think they're still like this for the most part. Which surprises me that back in the day, they allowed Chipotle to go up on Mass Street. They allowed Chipotle to go up. Starbucks is not allowed. The other big chains are not allowed. Chipotle was allowed, even though Big Brother was McDonald's. They allowed us to go up on Mass Street. It's the only one like that. But how do we keep it so that it's kind of like Lawrence? How do we look at it like that from that perspective? How do we keep your big, because eventually I think that this is going to turn into something where once the federal government says, okay, it's all good and everybody can just go and run with it, you're going to have your Pfizers and your Johnson & Johnsons. Yep. You're going to have your Philip Morris.
Budweiser's a big one. Yeah,
they're all going to start producing and manufacturing on this level. How do we keep that in Kansas so that we're protected as small, because I'm an entrepreneur. How are entrepreneurs protected? How do we make sure that happens?
That's a great question. That's probably more than $1 million question. It's and one that I don't really have a good answer for right now. So, and that you're right. I mean, and that's one of the reasons why we push Kansas so hard, that you've got to get a market established now, because it could happen federally, this year, next year, possibly. Yep. And if it does, and we don't have a, industry that's already up and rolling, I mean, it's going to pass you by, and you're not going to give your people an opportunity to build their brands, to build their market. And it's a big issue. And they see it. They see the pressure too. And most of the legislators up in Topeka, they want to get it done. And in fact, and it's being held up by one individual right now. And it's whether he Masterson, who is the chair of the Senate side, and so he decides what bill's going to get heard. And so our bill's ready to go, and they're ready to sign it. It's done. It just has to get in front of them, and he has to let that happen. And it's so frustrating the way that the political system works, because you've got over 70% of Kansans who want it done and have for years.
Look at the agriculture that comes out of Kansas, and with COVID and with supply chain issues. And I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories and all that, but what's happening to the farmers and all, across the country, especially here in our state, they're not allowed to produce what they were allowed to produce before. Things are different. Times are different now.
Yeah.
Government's cracking down. So if they can't produce the corn that they're supposed to, the wheat that they're supposed to, they need to start producing something at some point.
Yeah.
So at least give them the opportunity to produce this new product here.
Well, and beyond that, I'm a huge proponent for industrial hemp, which is completely different from marijuana.
Absolutely.
And the industrial hemp industry could be massive. I mean, you're talking billions of dollars in an industry where you can turn regular, plastics can be made from hemp. You can have
clothes, napkins,
clothes,
straws,
building materials, everything.
Ropes.
And I'll tell you, one of the big reasons why that industry has not taken off, though, it all stems from the insurance. So you can't get a lot of crop insurance on those plants, and because of just a lot of bureaucratic red tape. But essentially, a lot of the farmers, they don't want to necessarily touch it yet, because if you don't have insurance on a crop, and let's say, so back in 2019, we had a really wet season. We had a lot of flooding that year, and a lot of these, and that was the pilot program in the hemp industry for the state of Kansas. And a lot of these farmers, their fields got washed out, their crops were destroyed, and they couldn't have insurance on those. And so you're talking about like a 5-acre field, you're talking $20,000 worth of seed to create some of these, CBD plants is what they were doing. But, the paradigm needs to go away from the CBD and the THC and go into the industrial hemp that grows, 18 feet tall that you turn into the textiles and all of that. And so the industry is just not quite there yet. There's not a lot of processing for them. There's a few out there, but it's still just an expensive product. So once that gap closes, though, it's going to be a very viable option for a lot of farmers in Kansas.
And imagine with all the land that we have across this country that is not utilized, and I'm not a big proponent of using every square inch of land across the country. I'm not a big fan of that at all. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah. But how great would it be to see a farm area, 2, 3, 400 acres worth of land that has 1 or 2 manufacturing plants put on it, where everything is grown in the industrial hemp like you're talking about, and they produce all of that kind of stuff out of there. I mean, what that would do for job creation, what that would do for our economy, what that would do for the states and the taxes. I mean, heck, it's insane. You could tax those products at an insanely high level because once you get it down, you could make it cheap as dirt.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, how it ratios out. But still.
And the great thing for the farmers is, for an industrial hemp crop, you're talking 90 to 120 days to grow. It's not a long life cycle. And so, and the other thing is too, it's
really 90 to 100 days to grow. For how tall?
Yeah. That'll vary depending on the strain that you're using, but anywhere from 8 to 18 feet. It's
really? Wow.
Absolutely. So it's an incredible crop, and the other thing is that it helps actually aerate and detoxify the soils as well. So you're talking about a great rotational crop that farmers can use, between their soybeans and corn and wheat. So. Yeah.
Every season, put one of those in, let it fluctuate, and just flush out the soil, clean it out.
Yeah. It's just a natural biodiversity. It's how nature planned it to be.
And it's sad that it's not as well utilized as it should be.
Yep. Well, that pendulum is swinging. We're getting back there, but it's been a long road.
Well, that's what it seems like. And it's good to see the progress, because I remember I for the longest time was a big advocate of absolutely not. You should not legalize marijuana. The last thing anybody wants to see is a bunch of stoners sitting on corners jobless. Yeah. That's the last, and that's all I used to think about.
That was the paradigm, right? That's the story that was fed.
It absolutely was, and that's what the belief was. And as having lived in New York City, where it was available everywhere. I mean, back in New York, they used to deliver it on bicycles.
Yeah.
I mean, they get off their bike with a backpack, like, what do you want? It's like, what the hell? It was shady, but geez, but it was everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And then California, it becomes legal in California. And then in Denver, it's legal in Colorado. And, it just continues to grow and grow and grow. And as I started going to those states and living in those states, every state I lived in, it seemed to become legal in, it was amazing to me to see that crime in those areas actually went down.
Yep.
Economic stability went up. Yep. Unemployment rates went down. Income went up. Yep. I mean, so many.
Opioid abuse went down. Yep.
Went down. Mental health issues went down.
Yep.
In all of those areas that I saw, that I know. I don't have statistics to back it up. I need to find statistics and post that just to see if I can back up what I'm saying that I thought I saw.
We've got some. I can find them for you. So
see, and it's so true. So speaking of, how do we find you? How do we get a hold of you? How do we get a hold of the Kansas Coalition? How do we become a part of this for all of our folks?
Yep. You can find us at kchempco.com. That's our online retail location. It's got everything about our company and our products on there. The Kansas Cannabis Coalition, you can go to kansascannabiscoalition.org. And then the Kansas Chamber, I believe, is the KS. I'll have to find it and post it in the links. But
well, I got you here on Instagram.
There we go. There's our Instagram.
Pulled you up on Instagram, so you got this one. You're on Instagram. You're also on Facebook. You are on Twitter as well.
Yep, you can find us on all the regular social media sites. My wife, she handles most of that, all the TikToks, all that stuff. That I'm not much of a technology guy, but I let her take care of it. So
I'll tell you what, social media is a beast.
It is a beast. It is a full-time job in itself, trying to manage some of that stuff. So
I've had to learn to try to do all that kind of stuff, putting this thing together, and man, it is like there is so much to learn. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, and maybe it's just because I'm old. I feel old. I mean, I'm early 40s, but it's like these kids have no problem putting together these videos in like 2 seconds, and they're posting stuff up, and it looks great.
Yeah,
I gotta spend like 3-4 hours. I'm looking stuff up on YouTube. Like, how do I make this edit? I don't know.
Whenever I get the wild hair to actually put a TikTok or something out there, I look at my 13-year-old daughter and I say, "Hey, I need you to help me."
Right. My 8-year-old son's not quite there yet.
Yeah,
he's still too much into Minecraft to know that. But, yeah, it's insane. It really is. But well, best of luck to you, Kyle. Is there anything else that you want to leave us with before we head out today? I know I've taken up a good amount of your time, and I appreciate you coming in. I definitely appreciate
appreciate having me on, and excited about your new podcast, and I think it's gonna be great. So thank you, Roger.
Absolutely, man. All right, so Kyle Steppe here with me today, That Bald Guy. Don't forget, follow him, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that kind of fun stuff. Apparently TikTok too. He's on TikTok. You can find him on TikTok. We'll post everything up on the comments below. Like, subscribe, and we will see you all next time. Thanks again, and thank you, Kyle. We'll see you, man.
Thank you.
Absolutely.